In another universe, Van Cell and a Time Lord President were certain that the Valeyard was the first known Watcher to be thinking, self-aware and independent. They wanted to study him while simultaneously using him as an agent. At the end of the Doctor's trial, the Valeyard created an alternate timeline where the Doctor was found guilty and sentenced to execution. In this timeline, the Valeyard arranged to oversee the Doctor's execution, intending for this alternate timeline to become the true timeline once the Doctor had been shot. The 6th Doctor was saved from execution by the 8th Doctor. The temporal stasis created by the Doctor crossing his own timeline allowed the 6th Doctor to escape from the Valeyard and enter the 8th Doctor's TARDIS. This version of 6 existed long enough to help 8 set up an inquiry into the trial using their previous role as Lord President of Gallifrey, a role given to the 5th Doctor at the end of the 5 Doctors. The alternate timeline that the Valeyard created was erased after these events, so the version of the 6th Doctor who originated from it ceased to exist. The 8th Doctor's inquiry into the 6th Doctor's trial led to that High Council being dismissed, and then Barusa was reinstated as Lord President to guide Gallifrey through the ramifications of that High Council's crimes. The Valeyard disguised himself as a man called Zimmerman to send assassins after the 6th Doctor and sell various Time Lord secrets. However, both plans failed when the Doctor's investigation into the assassin's activities revealed Zimmerman's actions, though not his identity. With his link to the Matrix ensuring that the Time Lords learned about them as well, the Doctor later managed to get the assassins off his trail by using a stolen temporal circuit to freeze himself in time between heartbeats, rendering him legally dead, meaning the assassins had to accept the fact that they had won on a technicality even though the Doctor would be alive again later. The Valeyard was pursued by the Carago, a species of gastropods with bonded cybernetic armour, who wanted to capture and assimilate him in order to gain his knowledge and intelligence. In a TARDIS that would not work properly for him due to him not being a regular Time Lord, he travelled to the planet Ogoichao, I think that's what that says, in search of an elixir that would not only grant him the ability to regenerate, but to ensure that the Valeyard wouldn't feel the Doctor's responsibility for the universe again. He called himself the Doctor and manipulated Bernice Summerfield into helping him by claiming that the Caragos were conquerors and that they were looking for a way to defeat him, but she saw him kill Chorus, and after trying to save him, he remained in the caves with his split elixir whilst the Carago exploded. After he last met the Doctor, the Valeyard had been weakened. He was barely able to maintain his usual form. The Valeyard travelled to the Dimensional Nexus, something that allowed him to go to another dimension. This plan was interrupted when the Master arrived using the borrowed body of a human because of how dangerous the Nexus is to him. The Master wanted to use the Nexus to take over every dimension in existence, but his interference causes dimensions to intersect at the Nexus, which would eventually cause infinite universes to be in the same place at the same time, which is quite bad to say the least. The Valeyard was reconstituted from the 8th Doctor when he used a transmat to leave Thelium. He was set to work by the 6th Tamazan to fight in the last Great Time War. He won many battles for the Time Lords by not hesitating to sacrifice planets when necessary, as the Doctor never would. Eventually, the Time Lords learned of a weapon on the planet Grav that would allow the Daleks to erase the Time Lords from existence so completely that the Daleks would be the only ones to remember the Time Lords ever existed. The Valeyard was sent to Grav to use the weapon on the Daleks. He was able to successfully use it, but with the cost of damaging his own memory, along with the deaths of the native Gravians. The Time Lords, upon discovering this, placed the planet in a time lock, trapping the Valeyard there. With his memory damaged and the weapon's true nature of being a memory weapon providing illusions of the Gravians and the Daleks still being alive, the Valeyard repeated his mission over and over again for 2 centuries. The continuous mental resets caused by the loop damaged the Valeyard's memory of his own identity, leading to him eventually coming to define himself as the Doctor. The psychic vision of this reached the 8th Doctor, who, after learning what the Time Lords had done, stole Tamazan's TARDIS to break through the time lock. The Doctor was able to figure out what had happened, including that the Dalek time strategist had been there, and had escaped through a rift. The Valeyard refused to follow the Doctor and blissed through the rift, as he knew if he left Grav, his memories would reassert themselves and he would go back to being the Valeyard. By staying on Grav, he could continue being the Doctor while the continuous resets would allow him to keep Gravians alive in some form. With the Doctor's departure, the Valeyard remained trapped there fighting against the Daleks as the Doctor. However, the Dalek time strategist, allied with a recreation of Davros, was successfully able to later restore the Daleks to the universe, allowing the Time War to continue.